This is Top Shop Podcast.
Shop Podcast.
Top Shop Podcast.
Podcast for automotive service business owners by Paul Donahue.
Hey, Top Shop Podcast listeners, have another 4%er on the podcast this morning. We've got Bradford Jenner. He is in beautiful Fredericksburg, Virginia. Been a while since I've been there. So Affordable Automotive Repair. He's been the owner for 13 years. Bradford, do you know why I said 4%er?
I do not.
Okay. 4% of shops make it to 10 years.
Wow.
That started from scratch. Did you start yours from scratch or?
I did not.
Okay.
I worked for the company before I purchased it 13
Oh, no
years
kidding.
ago.
That's great. Yeah, because you took it over, established clientele, everything, right? Okay, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we took it over. I mean, when I bought it, it was doing under $1 million in gross revenue.
Right.
And when I took it over my first year, we surpassed $1 million in gross revenue.
Okay, awesome. Your first year, you surpassed
First
it.
year from taking it over. And that, again, I don't want to take all the credit necessarily for that. There was things that I was trying to implement before
Right.
the previous owner left, and he just didn't want to do it anymore or didn't want to listen.
Sure.
That was a goal of theirs was to try to get over that $1 million threshold in revenue before they
Right.
retired.
Mhm.
And they were just unable to do so. But yeah, with small changes here and there, we were able to bridge that gap between the 800,000 to the $1 million mark that first year.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Vision Trade Show?
I have not attended a Vision trade show yet, but I do know about it.
If you go, you have a high probability of returning. I can tell you that right now. But the reason I bring it up, 50% of all the auto repair shop owners that go there don't have a website.
Wow.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yep. That's why there's a lot of shop owners. I met one. He's got 10 shops in 5 years. Yeah. Because he keeps looking for the guys that are, don't have a website. They've had a shop for the last 30 years on this corner someplace. After 30 or 40 years of a business, you're not exactly on top of everything, So he comes in and guts them and puts in this new paint and paper, as he calls it, and turns on and puts up his sign and flicks it on, and boom, he's full. Because there's been a shop there for all these years, and people see, oh my gosh, look, there's a whole new, it's that subconscious, that vision. We focus on that with web big time. That's what we do. So when a website loads, I got less than a fraction of a second to put all that subconscious stuff, trust and all that into the mind of the consumer. Same thing with driving by, And by the way, I don't know if anybody else has mentioned that to you. This is a generational. It's not going to happen again. It's a generational opportunity to become an MSO.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's so many that are my age. I'm 63. There's so many that are up there and they have no plan for exit or whatever,
Yeah, no, I understand that. I've seen that quite a bit, and I don't want to say necessarily around me, but I've watched a lot of people getting up there in age, and instead of building something that is saleable,
right.
they build it, and then when they're done and they can't do any more, they close the doors, and I feel like that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the guy told me. He goes 6 miles to 7 miles out. He drew around his shop because 90% of all the business comes from a 3 mile area, around the shop. So he went 6 to 7 miles out and went around and started talking to the shop owners. He walked into one and the guy just scribbled a number on the back of a card and said, "Here, I'll walk out today. Hand me a check." He was like, ready he said, "Just give me a check. You can have it. Bye." So, and he did. He bought the shop. So,
wow.
And he converted it. Yeah. So 13 years. Yeah, that's a long time. So, hey, tell me let's start from the beginning. How'd you get in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I started actually working in the field. Again, and I will say professionally, even though it was a summer thing, but my father was an auto mechanic.
Okay, your dad was.
While I was growing
generation. Up. Your second generation. Okay.
Yep. So kind of started there and started at home, and then I had an uncle that was gracious enough to employ me, and I was so I stayed with him for the summers, and I would work for his shop, and again started from the bottom. I started sweeping floors.
Wow. No kidding.
Wow. Yeah, it came in and started doing that, taking trash out, things of that nature. Started getting a wrench and was able to, help the technicians along with anything that I could help with or start doing for them. And it kind of just escalated from there. As soon as I was able to get my license and I was out of class or out of school, I was straight on to my job at that point.
Wow.
At 16 years old and haven't stopped.
Yeah, good. It sounds like you got, like me, you have and a lot of other shop owners, you got a great work ethic. So, but yeah, talk about a real ground up success story from sweeping
Yeah.
floors as a kid at 16 to, owning a shop 13 years, in a decent sized town. How big is Fredericksburg? Fredericksburg's pretty good size, right?
Fredericksburg is definitely a decent size. I am
Yeah,
not too keen on the population or anything of that nature, but it's a very big area,
sure.
and it's heavily inundated with businesses. Let's say
Sure. A lot
all
of
types,
competitors. Yeah.
all shapes and sizes. But within a 10-mile radius of our shop, there's probably 150 other shops, dealerships,
Wow.
independents. So we have again, there's a lot of people can say competition. I compete a little bit, I think, with the dealerships, but I don't really look at anybody as competition. There's plenty of cars on the road for all of us.
Yep.
And not every customer, right, fits how we do business. And that's why there's a vast majority of different businesses because they handle themselves a different way.
Hmm.
We do the same.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. So, what were your early, well, you took over a shop. You'd already been managing and running it, right?
Yes and no. So
Okay. Because
just
my question
before,
is, what challenges did you face in the early stages of your ownership?
yep. So being a technician, the majority of my career, like many technicians, we think we can do it better than our predecessors, right?
Right.
So, can we do it better or can we offer something better to the customers? Was my thing, and I was at a point where I either wanted to get out on my own and start something completely from scratch,
Right.
or again, can I work something out to buy the existing place that I was working for? And that had already been in talks years prior, and it took us 2 years to finally come to that agreement. I think the biggest misunderstanding that I had once I jumped into that seat was I did not realize everything what that was entailed.
Hmm. Okay.
I looking from the other side, it again is like the grass is always greener, right? It looked easy. It looked like I could do this. And being a technician, I could speak to cars and not have them speak back to me. Right. I was very good at that. But I right before I took ownership, I wanted to learn the other side of the business. So I became an advisor. So I can understand the inner workings back and forth from the customer, right? And how that side of the business worked. Because again, I saw it and I was around it, but I didn't quite understand it. And I was only in that role briefly for about a year and a half to 2 years prior to me taking ownership.
Hmm.
And there was just so much that I did not realize I didn't know.
Right.
And the difficult part was when I took over, I didn't have the mindset that I have today. So I didn't just hire to get tasks done. I did everything I possibly could for myself. Not to say I didn't have a team, but I was a service advisor. And when I wasn't advising, I had another advisor in the front office. So I was working on cars and I was going back and forth from that all day. And then the close of business would happen. And then I would be in my office until 10, 11 o'clock at night doing all the paperwork and doing, the managerial side and the ownership side of the business.
Right.
So that I think was the most, I guess, the most stressful part. I was only one person. So trying to figure out how everything could get done without me was was a struggle. And I am shoot, here we are 13 years later, and I have a totally different mindset and approach to things. But it's taken me, I feel like this long, or I just realized it a couple of years ago on how to actually run from the owner's standpoint and not just, oh, we need to have that car worked on and run out and start working on that car. I no longer do those positions anymore.
Mm.
I'm not
Okay.
available to do it anymore.
Awesome. Awesome. So you're focusing more on working on the business, not in it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Right. Okay. All right. Good. That's great. That's great. What are the, I'm sorry, how many bays do you have?
Yep. So it's a 6,000 square foot building. We
Oh,
have 10 bays.
okay. Wow. 6,000 square foot, 10 bay. That's a big one. Wow. 10 bay facility. How many techs do you have?
Currently I have five and a
Five
half. I have
techs?
five, and then we have an apprentice. He's
One
still in high
apprentice.
school, so he'll be going full time here. As soon as the summer hits, he'll be graduating. So
Awesome. It sounds like I got some other questions coming up on that. So it sounds like you're on the ball on it. Yeah. Yeah.
tr
Uh, so
trying to stay there.
hey, if you would have, when I was a kid growing up back in the 70s, if you would have went to a shop owner and said, "Hey, what's your culture?" They probably would have said, "I don't eat yogurt."
Absolutely. Yep.
But culture is important. So you're keeping techs, that's my next question after this one. It's, how are you finding, hiring, and retaining good techs? No, you're working ground up. So
So
you just said you have an apprentice. So let's go with that one. That's like the biggest question, is the 400,000 tech shortage or that we in the next 10 years. So you sounds like you're being very proactive. You just said I have apprentice that's going to be turning wrenches soon. So tell me about that.
yeah. So I again in with this day going forward, right? We definitely have a technician shortage problem as far as the good technicians are retiring, getting out of the industry, or they're already being well taken care of. So they're really not actively looking because they are
No.
being taken care of. Um, what I have found is that we have to build our own technicians. And I don't think this is just a new thing. I think for the way we want our businesses to go, this
Right.
is how we should be doing it. Um, I guess I've been doing it my way for so long, and I haven't worked everywhere under the sun, right? I've worked for a dealership, I've worked for a few independents. So it's not that I have a whole lot of experience working for different leaderships, um, but I have done a very good job. My foreman here has been with me for 11 years, and when he started with me, he was working for a dog kennel and he had automotive experience from in school, but that was about it, right?
Hmm.
And now he's my top guy.
Wow.
We have built him from the ground up by all the training that we've done, obviously in house, and all the training that we've sent him to. And it just, again, you said it in the beginning, the culture. When I first took over this business, culture was not even in my vocabulary. It wasn't something I was worried about.
Right.
And today, I strictly hire based on our culture.
Okay. Yeah.
Attitude's everything. We can teach skills, but attitude and the way you're perceived as a person, and how you handle yourself day to day means everything to me because we work together very close knit as a team, and that's needed. So all of that I hire more on attitude today than I do skill, and
Wow.
that was the complete opposite 10 years ago.
Right. Yeah. So tell me about culture. What are you doing to, maintain a good shop culture there? I mean, I've heard if you listen to my other podcast, man, I've a lot of really great things, some like doing off-site stuff like the go-kart races or whatever, and others are like, well, they spend all week together. The last thing they want to do is go someplace on the weekend, but that's with the family and picnics, lunches, internal rewards. Hey, the ones that gets the most review. I've heard of all kinds of things. What's your
Yeah.
advice to a shop owner to develop and maintain good culture? Because you can look the other way for a little while and culture can go.
Absolutely. And that's what I've definitely noticed over the years. So every time I seem to turn around, it's like, man, I've got the best team together. Everything's going smooth. And then a month later, everybody wants to complain about something that somebody else is doing, right? And
Right.
it's like, what's going on? One of the things that I've done, and one of the things that I've done that I didn't do in the past is I hold weekly meetings. So
Okay.
weekly, we sit around at lunchtime and we discuss again certain things. We go over numbers, where we were the previous week, where we're going, what potentially is holding us up. If we learned anything the past week, so if we had something go wrong with the car or wrong with the customer, we use that time frame to go over it to how do we get better. Um, and then besides that, we just kind of talk about again, I also get feedback from my team, right? So again, do we have anything broken? Is there anything that should be addressed? Something that you guys are noticing that maybe we haven't addressed yet, or something that needs to be talked about.
Okay. So
So
so involvement. So everybody feels like they're part of a team when you ask questions like that. They're just not there to get a check, right? Okay.
correct. And then along with that, to make sure that whatever I am hearing, whatever's being said, that I hear it and that I acknowledge it, but not necessarily agree to it right away. What I've kind of learned, and this is just something new lately, is accountability on my part. So things can be asked for, things can be talked about, and if I agree and say I'm going to do it, but then I don't do it. There needs to be something a little bit better than that, right? I shouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily, as a leader, agree to something that I'm not ready to agree to, and I shouldn't state that something's going to be done. To give you an example, our morning huddle meetings, right? I've stated it multiple times that we're going to do it. It has failed. So then your team starts thinking that, well, you said something, but you're not going to follow through with it. So
Right.
at the same time, why do I need to do that? So there's been downfalls of that with the culture, right?
Sure.
So how I try to approach things now is a little differently, and it's just more, again, more proactive and more with more speed. So if I start noticing something is happening or something that needs to be addressed, I if I can't address it that day, it's addressed immediately, one way, shape, or form, um, with all parties involved. And again, that holds them accountable and the understanding that it is being monitored and watched and that we are constantly trying to improve ourselves, to be better, to deliver the experience that we're looking for, from the customer standpoint. I know a lot of people ask, business owners and leaders, it's like, what makes you guys different than anybody else? And I don't pick the cars as being anything different. There are lots of places that can fix cars around here.
Yep.
That can do it the right way. I'm not going to beat that up and say we're the best in town when it
Sure.
comes to fixing your car. But at the same time, the experience that you're going to have with my business versus another one is going to be next level. And that's what we go after. That's what we want. Because at the end of the day, people have to get their cars fixed, repaired, maintained. Um, but the people that they're doing it with, it should be a good experience. And I know for the most part in our area that is what customers complain about when they're coming to us, even though that might not be happening 100% out there. That's just one thing that we really focus on, that I feel like, especially, and my team does too, but I feel like the customer service aspect of all types of businesses over the last 10 years have really just kind of gone downhill, and people don't seem to care as much.
Hmm. Wow. Tell me about a difficult time that you had. Or no, I'm sorry. Let me go back to the text.
Yeah.
Finding, hiring, and retaining techs. So I think you got the spot on attitude. The day of, hey, I'm just going to run an ad and an ASC master tech's going to walk in and be looking for a job. Nah, no. So, are you going to the high schools, or do any of your high schools even offer? I mean, when I was a kid growing up in Ohio, every high school
Yep.
had an auto mechanics program in it. I don't know of a high school that didn't. And then, of course, the people that feed the colleges said, no, no, get rid of that. Tell them they all need a college degree. We need employees to increase our stock values. So
Right.
that's bottom line. So,
Yeah.
so they took all that out of the schools and, oh, you need a college degree. Now, Mike Rowe, even President Trump had mentioned it, that, the trades is, now look, a journey, plumbers, electric, HVAC, electrical, auto repair. These people are knocking down, 10 grand a month,
Yeah.
and then the one with the college degree. So, what have you been doing proactively to go out and find people? Or I can answer this question already for you too. Also, probably, have you ever had people come to you and say, "Are you looking for help?" Have you ever
As
had
far,
Have you ever had people walk in your door and say, "Hey,
yes.
Bradford"? Yep. See, every shop that's got good culture, they answer that question, yes. Because word gets out. You have delivery people that come from auto parts stores that they see what's going on. They hear what's going on from the back. All the shops that I interview on Top Shop Podcast that tell me they have a really good shop culture have had people just walk in the door because it gets out there. So, but what are you proactively doing, besides a good shop culture to find, like, you have an apprentice now? Where'd you find that apprentice?
So he again was somebody that just stopped by and he was very
Really?
persistent. And I at the time did not have a spot available. And I've worked with a couple different apprentices and I've worked with a ton of kids. And again, nothing against the kids today, but they want to hide, they don't want to work. Um, they
Work
are
ethic.
the work ethic for kids nowadays is different from when I was growing up. And
Same.
again, it's a challenge, but not to say there aren't kids out there that want to do it and want to learn, right? Because we found some really good ones. I've had a female apprentice um, that worked out really, really well. She came and worked for me for 2 summers in a row. Of course, she's going to school to be an engineer in Wales. So that was a really neat, interesting thing, especially to have a female technician in the industry,
Sure.
or out in the shop, I guess. That was just really neat and a great experience for us. But so yeah, so we're building them, and then obviously our culture. And I really like what you said as far as like people that build a good culture, people just seem to walk in their door. And you're right, we are known in our area. The
Yep.
objective for me is to make a workplace that is desirable for people to want to come to work.
Hmm.
And this industry it's hard. I won't be around the bush. Like, it's a difficult industry to be in, but it is very rewarding, and you can make a very good, honest, great living at it. And I have done so for myself for many years. And it's about making your shop desirable. There are people that come and go, right? And I love holding on to my employees or team members as long as possible. But my thing is that I'm going to train you to be the best person you can be, to show up to be a better husband, father, wife, brother, sister, friend. Alongside that, I want to better your skills in this environment. And if you end up staying with me, if I can treat you well enough to stay with me and you can keep moving up, fantastic. But if you have greater opportunities in life that we might not be able to match, awesome. There's nothing that I can be mad at for someone trying to better themselves. And while over the course of the last 13, 14 years, we've had people come in this business and leave this business, I have a really good rapport with a lot of ex-employees
Oh, okay.
due to the fact that they really cared about how I ran the business and what that meant for them.
Right.
Right. So I still have people coming back like, man, you're still the best boss I ever had. Again, they left
Wow.
for
That's
whatever
cool.
reason it might have been to better
Sure.
themselves. And they might like what they're doing. They might like the money they're doing now, or if they had to move or whatever the case may be. Um, but I am well known in the area for that. So I use Indeed, of course, right? And
Sure.
Indeed's wonderful, and it gets us a lot of people in the door. We have to funnel through those people, and again, now that I hire more based off attitude than skill,
Right.
um, it looks a little different as far as the interview process goes, and how I bring people in. But I've changed some things in the industry as well. As a technician for most of my life, I understood how it was to be treated, to be paid. Like, I understand that side of
Right.
the
Yeah.
industry.
From the other side. Yeah. Yeah. So you have a unique perspective that other owners that just come in and buy a Christian Brothers franchise don't have.
Right. So I've been trying to
You've been on both sides of the counter.
I've been on both sides. I've done every position in my business.
Wow.
And again, and I know a lot of technicians become owners, but what I've been trying to do is, again, change this industry a little bit at a time. I've always looked at automotive as the I don't know, one of the worst trades, not necessarily to get into, but treated the worst from its perspective and its consumers.
Right.
And while there's electricians and plumbers out there, and automotive has it all combined, right? We're electricians, we're plumbers, we're IT specialists. We have to do it all now on one
Diagnostic
thing.
specialist. Yeah. Yep.
So we should be recognized a lot for that, in my opinion. So I'm trying to change that as far as, to the customer's perspective of everything we go to and how we explain everything to them, on why things are needed or why they're not, in that aspect. But I'm also trying to change things from the inside. And what that means for me is, okay, I've changed their pay. Okay, I don't pay flat rate anymore. I do performance pay. So everybody
Okay.
has some
Oh,
sort of guarantee,
all right. So you're doing
regardless
performance pay. Okay. Yep.
regardless if the work is there. And the reason I wanted to start doing that, in again, is as a technician, when business slowed down, it got tough. It got tough for the business, but it got tough for the technicians too. And everybody has a family out there. So my thing is, if I'm not doing my job with the marketing, if I'm not
Right.
doing my job making sure the phones are being answered properly to get the work in the door, then I've got other problems than just the fact that I should worry about, oh, well, if I don't have the work, then I don't need to pay my technicians. I just look at it differently. So because of that, I've been able to draw a lot of good people in just because that's not how they get paid. And again, while I don't want anybody living off their guarantee, because I want everybody to want to obviously continuously want more out of their life, it's really good to know that that is there and that the business is kind of standing up and standing behind you. That hey, if we're a little slow, it's not just all on me. So
Okay.
those are things that I think I've brought to the table that have been a little different from when I was in the business as a technician, and I'm just trying to make it a little bit a better working environment and better place for all the team members.
Okay. So let's talk about finances. No shop is going to make it, 5, 10, 15. How long is that Affordable Automotive Repair? How long has it been there?
We're in our 26th year.
Oh, okay, so 26 years. So someone had it for 13 years and you took it over for the last 13 years. So 26 years in the marketplace. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You really get that out there. Finances. No shop is going to stay in business a year, let alone 13, without proper handling of finances. And I think a lot of uh, repair technicians that open a shop and then get blindsided by I got to know what to run a business, So let alone what you need to know to fix cars. So I was just kind of wondering what if you have any advice, especially for newer shop owners or even for experienced shop owners, but any good advice on how to handle finances or how you handle finances that kept you in business? Yeah, because there's ups and downs,
Yep.
on seasons, off seasons,
I mean,
COVID.
any recommendations I would have would be to be able to put as much money away as possible,
Okay.
right? Be strategic with that. I mean, if I had any advice for anybody either just starting out or thinking about taking over a shop or just took over a shop, get a coach. That is
Okay.
one thing that I delayed on for years, thinking I could
Okay.
do it myself, going to free boot camps, being insulted by different people because the shop was not doing what it should have been doing.
Right.
Um, that put your pride aside, get help because I have substantially grown at a lot better rate and speed because I've had a better understanding because I've had help not only from the coaches but the people I meet, obviously networking and things of that nature. But and then not only that, but to take action because we hear a lot of this information. We hear what other top shops are doing. We hear that we need to be firing for this reason, firing for that reason. Um, it needs to happen. And many years went by. I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm sure, by making wrong decisions or waiting too long to make a decision,
Mm,
especially when it comes to an employee. So anything, that would be my top recommendation. And again, the whole finances part. And even 13 years here later, we had a little drop off at the end of last year. Still met the mark, just shy of $2 million, but we had a lot of money going out and not a lot of money coming in, and it put me in a little bit of a bind, a misunderstanding, if you would, because it's like I absolutely stopped nothing. Normally, in the past, I'd be like, "Oh, I stopped this advertising 3 months ago. No wonder I'm slowing down now. Like I didn't think it was doing anything, but look what it's doing." I didn't stop anything. I only added to it, and we just hit some sort of weird bubble. I think it was just things just running together, right? We
right.
live right
Sure.
outside of DC. So with the government shutdown, went on a little bit longer than we expected. And then as they got back into it, going back to work, something else was going on, then weather hit. So you can be as most prepared as possible and be doing everything right, and things can still get in your way.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of businesses are one bad week away from going out of business.
Mm,
And that's not a good position to be in. And especially when you want to be able to, especially what I do with performance pay and everybody's guaranteed, right? So that fixed expense cost goes up, regardless if we're turning wrenches or we got work or not. So bank money, the one thing that I think a lot of people look at is, man, I brought $2,000 in today on that. I made, on that car, I made $2,000, not realizing that 900 of that is going out right away to parts and the technician that just took care of it, right? And not thinking
mm,
of your overhead. And
right.
systems and things like that cost. I keep adding more and more systems to my program, and everything here is $200, $400 a month. I mean, you start adding seven, eight, nine things, and your fixed expenses start gradually growing. And if you're not making sure that they're doing something for you, then changes need to be made, and they need to be made quickly. It's something that needs to be monitored on a regular basis. You need to be looking at your bank account every day and verifying to make sure the money's going there, making sure we're getting paid for things. We can't assume that just because we hire people that it's all being done and it's all being
Right.
done properly. And at the
Oh,
same time, with all
yeah. Yeah, I made that mistake. Yeah, go ahead.
and the same thing with our systems that we use, right? Like we set them up once and we never have a problem. Well, that's fine until the problem happens. And if we weren't aware of it, that creates a bigger problem for us in the long run. So there's a lot of things that, again, while I was working on cars and selling work, I didn't have time to do inspecting what I
Right.
expect.
You didn't have time to work on
And
the business. Right.
no, and
Yeah.
that leads to a lot of downfalls because of that. So yeah, that's as far as finances go. I mean, my biggest thing is put more in the bank than you think you need, because there may come a time, and if there doesn't, then you can always move that money around, right? And
Right.
and and then
Sure.
that's perfectly fine. But if you don't have it and you need it, it's going to put you in a big problem.
Right. And if you need to buy some new equipment, you can just stroke a check for it instead of financing it.
Absolutely, and that's a common, I think, misunderstanding with a lot of people is that
Hmm.
they don't realize that they should be putting 20 to 25% away into an equipment fund to be able to
Right.
do that and write a check. And they're like, oh, when I need something, I'll just go get a loan and then I'll pay that off. You'll constantly be in a problem. I'm lucky to say that this year, I mean, and again, it's been 13 years, but by June, I will have no debt on anything. We will own everything.
That's
So
congratulations, Bradford, man. That's a lot.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what it's like to work towards that to get to that point, 13 years ago. Do you have kids?
I have three.
How old were they 13 years ago?
So 13 years ago when I bought the business, I had just got married 6 months prior.
Okay.
Or well, maybe 9 months prior.
Right.
Um, we had our first daughter that year, and then we bought the business. So a lot went on that first year, and that was my first child. So
Okay.
I had no kids when we were deciding to buy the business, and working all through that.
And so you bought the business and had three kids. So great guy to ask this question to. Work-life integration. Uh, any tips on that? Because I've had a few shop owners say, "Well, yeah, my wife helped me with that." You know? So they got a little out of
Absolutely.
balance. The wife reeled them back in. But I think it's important. There's I've heard a lot of advice on this, but I was just kind of wondering, raising three young children while growing a business,
It's a lot. Absolutely. And fortunately, my wife, when we had our first child that year, she was able to quit her job. And she has not gone back to work since.
awesome.
So she is raising all three of our daughters, and we are now. I want to say she is also currently homeschooling all three of my daughters.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
So there's a lot going on there, but that was a freedom thing that we wanted. We can travel
Sure.
and do what as we wish.
Yep.
Now, of course, they're involved in a lot more programs and things of that nature. But yeah, my wife played a huge part of that. That was also as we look back and we talk about these times. I even talk about it with my daughter. I missed a lot of time with my first daughter for the first 5 years. I mean, again, I took over the business. So at that time, my mindset was like, I got to do everything. I can't fail. Right. This was a huge step for me.
Yeah.
So I was at the shop from sun up to sundown, home very little. And then when I was home, I was taking care of stuff, or I was out in the garage, back then. So, but very little time with my daughter, and again, I feel like I missed out, and there are times that I'm upset about that. At the same time, I think work-life balance is a myth. And I think if you're looking for a balance, for that, as far as like how much I'm going to work versus how much I'm not going to work,
Right.
or what that looks like, you're not going to end up with, I think, with what you want out of life. If you want to be, as this is how I've heard it, and my coaches have talked about it. If I want to be extraordinary, then I have to be extraordinary. And that doesn't mean I get to work 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and then go home. And my days still don't look like that, right? Like, I mean, I might be here for only 1 to 2 hours at the same time in the shop, but I'm working constantly. The only thing that I could recommend, or what positiveness that I can say from that, is be present on wherever you're at. If you're at work, be present and get work done. And when you're at home, be present and do home things. For a lot of us, and for me for a very long time, we'd be at work potentially getting things done, doing stuff, but maybe not doing everything we should. And so then we're at home and we're thinking about the things that we didn't do, right? And then we're upset with, I didn't spend time with my children, I didn't spend time with my wife, and then we're thinking about that at work, right?
Right.
So I would say that the biggest thing that I have learned is to be present wherever you're at and devote all your attention with what you're doing. You will get a lot more gratitude, I think, from that, whether I have a little bit of time with my children or a little bit of time with my wife, and most of it is spending at the shop, or I'm traveling to coaching group meetings and networking events.
Right.
Um, like all that stuff needs to be done, but again, you still want to be there for the ones you love. My shop means everything to me. But
But that's what it's for. It's for the family.
but it's for the family. So
Right.
if you don't have that, then what's the point?
Right.
And c communication, I feel like, is a very strong point, and communication with everything. Everything that falls short or fails, in my opinion, is a communication problem. And I can say that about my business, and I can say that about my personal life. Me
Hmm.
and my wife did not used to
Wow.
communicate very well. So that was a huge problem for us. And it made times where, we just, I don't know, we were together, but we weren't together. But we have both worked on ourselves, both worked on communication. And just the fact of the communication aspect alone has made me a better leader, but it has made me a better husband as well. And my life in general, my home life, my work life, like, I'm 41 years old. My life is the best it's ever been.
Awesome.
And it continues to go that way because we continue to, I continue to work on it and become a
Right.
better every single day.
Yep. My wife and I are engaged in a very intense, personal self-development, plan. And by doing that, that's brought us closer than anything else, a whole
That's
new level.
awesome.
Coaching. Never, every time I ask this question, okay, new shop owner, one piece of advice, what would you give them?
As far as like,
Hey, Bradford, I'm starting a shop here in Pleasant View, Utah. And got any, what's the one overall piece of advice that you would give me that's going to really help me?
lead with kindness and accountability.
Okay. And what about coaching? Because a lot of times that's the biggest answer I get, Bradford, is coaching. Get a coach as soon as you can. Because you
Yep, and I
already
s-
said
and
it
I s-
earlier.
and I
Yeah.
stated that earlier. I would
Yeah.
also agree with that, and I would, and with being said, there's a lot in coaching programs out there, and
Yeah.
I've gone to many of them. I haven't been like necessarily attached or tried every single one, but
Right.
I've been to a lot of free boot camps for the different ones that are out there. Find a group that works for you. Not every group is designed or built the way you might take it, but at the same time, with the notion of, if you're wanting to do this to become a better leader, join a coaching group, get a coach, and again, take action on the things you learn and watch the changes happen. I
Okay.
think a lot of a lot of people say like knowledge is power, and I disagree with that statement,
Yes.
because a lot of
Yes,
us
it is
go and we get
not.
all this knowledge. We write notebooks down of all these notes that we get from all these places, and then we get back to the shop with all this energy, and then we take very little action, and then when the results don't happen, people get upset about it.
I
And
agree.
the thing is, it's not just getting the knowledge, it's taking the action on it and then figuring out how it's going to work for you. Because just because you learned it from somebody else and they've got it nailed down and it's working perfect for them,
Hmm.
doesn't mean just because you state it and you want to do that, it's going to work perfectly for you. Right. So sometimes you have to work at different things to make it work for your shop or your business. And that is what's going to make the difference, though, continuing to take action. Like I said, a lot of people say knowledge is power and you can have all the knowledge. But if that was the case, I feel like librarians would run the world, and that's not what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, all right. I appreciate that, Bradford. It's probably I can't. We recommend the Institute for Excellence. Okay, I know Cecil Bullard
Yep.
personally, and I know a lot of his customers. So if somebody ever asks me or say, "Hey, do you really want to grow?" We recommend the Institute for Excellence. So coaching is crazy important. So all shops that I see that are really growing, or they're buying multiple shops, or they're really increasing their revenues, they have a digital marketing agency that is driving return on investment every single month by the numbers, and they have a good coaching company. So
Yep.
that's it. But hey, Bradford, I really want to thank you for your time today to be on the podcast. I know it's spring there in Virginia, so it's a beautiful time of year there. I really miss getting over to the East Coast. I'm over here in Utah, so we do want to thank you very much for your time. And we've got your 13 years of experience recorded here for posterity. So we'll keep that up. So, all right, let me just.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right.
For additional automotive resources and exclusive content, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all our episodes. Thanks again for joining us in the driver's seat, and we'll see you next time for another thrilling episode of Top Shop.